The space station Nexus 1 hung like a silver jewel against the blackness of space. Inside, Commander Alan Wright adjusted his uniform collar for the 5th time in 10 minutes. Today was the day humanity would meet aliens face to face for the first time. "Nervous?" asked Ambassador Diana Miller, a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Just ready to get this over with," Alan replied, though his sweaty palms told a different story. The year was 2087, and humanity had finally reached beyond their solar system. Their signals had been answered 6 months ago by a species calling themselves the Veltorians. After months of careful communication, this meeting was arranged. The airlock door hissed open. Alan's hand moved instinctively to his sidearm as 3 figures stepped through. The Veltorians were tall, at least 7 feet, with blue-tinted skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Each had 4 eyes. 2 large ones where a human's would be, and 2 smaller ones above the temples. They wore simple silver suits that clung to their thin frames. "Welcome to Nexus 1, Diana said with a practiced smile. "I am Ambassador Diana Miller of Earth, and this is Commander Alan Wright of the Earth Defense Forces." The tallest Veltorian stepped forward. "I am Zorathal, chief diplomat of the Veltorian Collective." Its voice had an odd musical quality, like several tones speaking at once. The meeting room was prepared with chairs for both species. As they sat down, Alan noticed how the Veltorians moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost unnatural. "We bring greetings from Earth and all humanity," Diana began. "We hope this meeting marks the beginning of friendship between our peoples." Zorathal's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Yes, friendship. We have studied your transmissions with great interest." "Then you know we come in peace," Diana continued. "We propose a treaty of mutual respect and trade." Something like a smile crossed Zorathal's face, but it didn't reach any of its eyes. "Mutual respect requires mutual worth, Ambassador." Alan felt a chill run down his spine. "I'm not sure I understand," Diana said carefully. "Your species has only recently mastered basic space travel. Your weapons are primitive. Your understanding of physics is limited." Zorathal looked at the other Veltorians, who made a sound that might have been laughter. "We have much to offer in trade," Diana pressed. "Art, music, unique perspectives." "Art," Zorathal interrupted. "While you were painting pictures in caves, we were building cities in the stars." Alan leaned forward. "With respect, Diplomat Zorathal, humanity has achieved much in a short time. Our advancement curve is steep." "Yes, yes," Zorathal waved a 6-fingered hand dismissively. "All young races say this, but facts remain facts. Your ships are slow. Your weapons would barely scratch our hull plating." The other Veltorians chittered again. This time, it was definitely laughter. "Perhaps a demonstration of your military capabilities would set our minds at ease," Zorathal suggested with fake politeness. Alan and Diana exchanged glances. They both knew what wasn't being said. 3 months ago, when the meeting was arranged, Earth's leaders had made a critical decision. The stealth fleet would remain secret. For 30 years, Earth had developed technology that bent light and absorbed energy signals. Whole fleets could hide in plain sight. It was humanity's one true advantage in a universe they were just beginning to understand. "Our military is focused on defense, not shows of strength," Alan said carefully. Zorathal made a noise like a snort. "Defense. With your primitive propulsion systems and basic projectile weapons, you could not defend against a child's toy ship." The laughter grew louder. One of the Veltorians whispered something that made the others shake with amusement. Diana kept her face neutral, but Alan could see the anger in her eyes. She had warned the United Earth Council that this might happen, that new species often tested others for weakness. "We value peace above displays of power," Diana said firmly, "but never mistake our desire for peace as weakness." Zorathal's laughter stopped abruptly. Bold words from primitive primates barely out of their cradles. As the meeting continued, the insults grew thinly veiled. The Veltorians clearly believed humans were no threat and barely worth consideration as equals. What they didn't know was that 5 stealth ships currently surrounded the station, invisible to all sensors. What they couldn't see was that humanity was far more dangerous than they appeared. And as Commander Alan Wright listened to them laugh at his species, he thought about the hidden fleets back home and allowed himself a small secret smile. The Veltorians would learn someday. Everyone did. 6 months after the first meeting with the Veltorians, Earth had joined the Galactic Concord. This group of 8 alien civilizations met regularly to discuss trade, borders, and rules of space travel. Humans were the newest and least respected members. Jack Bennett walked into the grand meeting hall of the Concord station. The room was huge, with a round table in the center. As Earth's representative, Jack had the smallest chair at the table. "Ah, the human arrives," said the Threx representative, an insect-like being with 6 limbs and compound eyes. Its voice carried a buzzing sound. "We were just discussing faster-than-light travel advancements." Jack smiled politely and took his seat. "Thank you for waiting," he said, though they clearly hadn't been. Around the table sat representatives from all 8 alien species. Besides the Veltorians and the insect-like Threx, there were the Nebulons who looked like swirling blue clouds inside special containers, and the Quartz Consciousness, beings that seemed made of living crystal. "As I was saying," continued the Threx, "our new engines can cross 5 light years in just 2 Earth days." "Impressive," Jack said. Earth would be interested in such technology. The Veltorian representative, not Zorathal, but another blue-skinned 4-eyed diplomat named Krelvor, made a sound like a laugh. "Your ships would fall apart if we installed such engines. Human materials are too basic." Several of the aliens made their species' version of laughter. Jack had gotten used to this treatment. In every meeting, they found ways to remind humans they were considered backward and weak. "Perhaps," Jack said calmly, "but we are eager to learn." "Learn?" A Nebulon's container vibrated as it spoke. "Your species still fights among itself. How can you be ready for advanced technology?" Jack thought about correcting them. Earth had been unified for 30 years now. The old nations still existed but worked together under the United Earth Council. This unity had allowed them to focus on space travel and defense technology, especially their stealth systems. But Jack said nothing about this. His orders were clear. Let them underestimate humanity. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Olivia Martinez stood in a massive underground facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. Around her, engineers and scientists worked on huge ships that would never see the light of day until they were complete. "Report," she said to the man approaching her. "Ghost Protocol is ahead of schedule, General," said Chief Engineer John Rivers. "The new stealth ships can now remain undetected even when firing weapons." Olivia smiled. "Show me." They walked to a viewing area overlooking the water tank the size of 10 football fields. Inside, something large displaced water. But Olivia couldn't see it, just a slight shimmer where the water moved differently. "Fire test torpedo," John ordered into his comm device. Suddenly, from nowhere, a torpedo shot through the water. The ship remained invisible. "Perfect," Olivia said. "And the fleet production? 50 ships complete, another 100 in various stages. The moon base is producing even faster since they don't have to worry about water pressure." Back at the Concord meeting, Jack listened as the aliens discussed dividing up a newly discovered star system. "The human territory is sufficient for their needs," said Krelvor. "They barely use what they have." "Agreed," said the crystalline representative of the Quartz Consciousness. "Humans breed quickly, but their technology advances slowly. By the time they need more space, we will have settled these new worlds properly." Jack kept his face neutral. "Earth respects the Concord's decisions," he said. As the meeting ended, the Veltorian representative approached Jack. "Your patience is admirable, human. Most young species would demand more." "We understand our place," Jack said carefully. Krelvor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Yes, It is good that you do. As Jack walked back to his ship, he received an encrypted message from Earth. He waited until he was alone in his quarters to read it. Ghost Protocol at 75% completion. Fleet Admiral position offered. Accept. Jack smiled for the first time that day. He typed a single-word reply. Accepted. The aliens might laugh now, but Jack knew something they didn't. Humanity wasn't just building ships. They were building an armada, and not a single alien sensor could detect them. He looked out his window at the Veltorian ships in the distance. Soon, they would learn the truth, and then no one would be laughing. The attack came without warning. Susan Carter was drinking coffee in her office on Europa when the first explosions shook the colony dome. As colony director, she immediately checked the emergency monitors. What she saw made her blood run cold. 5 massive Veltorian warships hovered above Europa's surface. Their weapons were firing directly at the main habitat dome. All personnel, this is not a drill. We are under attack. Proceed to emergency shelters immediately, she announced over the colony-wide system. People ran through the corridors as more explosions rocked the structure. The dome's transparent panels began to crack under the assault. Paul Johnson, the colony's lead engineer, burst into Susan's office. We need to get you to the bunker now. What about evacuation ships? Susan asked, grabbing her emergency tablet. The Veltorians destroyed them first, Paul said grimly. They knew exactly where to hit us. As they rushed down the corridor, the lights flickered. Through a viewing window, Susan saw 2 more Veltorian ships approaching Mars colony in the distance. They're hitting both colonies at once, she whispered. In the command bunker deep beneath Europa's surface, Susan established contact with Earth. On the screen appeared President Catherine Ellis, her face grim. Madam President, we are under heavy attack by Veltorian forces, Susan reported. The main dome is failing. We have casualties. The Mars colony reports the same, the president said. We've tried contacting the Veltorian government, but they're not responding. Suddenly, all screens switched to show a Veltorian face, the Supreme Commander Drazkor. People of Earth, the alien said, it's 4 ice cold. Your time in this system is over. Humans are unworthy of the resources you control. The cleansing has begun. The message ended abruptly. Director Carter, President Ellis said, hold out as long as you can. Help is coming. But Susan wondered what help could possibly arrive in time. Europa was 4 days from Earth by the fastest ships they publicly had. The main dome collapsed 3 hours later. Hundreds died instantly as the atmosphere vented to space. The remaining colonists, about 2,000 people, retreated to the subsurface tunnels and sealed the heavy doors. How long can life support last down here? Susan asked Paul as they worked in the emergency control room. Maybe 2 weeks if we're careful, he answered, not looking up from his console. I've set up a distress beacon on a frequency the Veltorians might not monitor. At the Galactic Concord emergency session, Jack Bennett stood before the alien representatives, his face showing anger that he no longer tried to hide. The Veltorians have attacked peaceful human colonies without provocation, he declared. 2,000 colonists on Europa and 5,000 on Mars are in immediate danger. We request Concord intervention. The Threx representative's antennae twitched. This appears to be a territorial dispute between your species. The Concord does not interfere in such matters. Territorial dispute. Jack couldn't believe what he was hearing. They're killing civilians. The Nebulon's container swirled faster. Perhaps if humans had better defenses, this would not have happened. Jack looked around the table, seeing no sympathy from any species. Worse, he noticed several representatives exchanging what appeared to be knowing glances. Later, walking back to his quarters, Jack was approached by a junior quartz consciousness aide who glanced around nervously before speaking. Human Bennett, you should know that several Concord species provided the Veltorians with detailed scans of your colony's defenses 3 days ago. The crystalline being's voice was barely audible. They expect your species to be conquered within a week. Jack's face revealed nothing, but his hands tightened into fists. Thank you for this information. In his quarters, Jack sent an encrypted message to Earth. Concord complicit. Ghost Protocol now. The answer came back immediately. Ghost Protocol authorized. Operation Shadow Strike begins in 24 hours. As the Veltorian ships continued their assault on the human colonies, none of their sensors detected the small, completely invisible vessels that began to gather at the edge of the solar system. Ships that didn't officially exist were moving into position. The hunters were about to become the hunted. President Catherine Ellis stood before the United Nations in New York City. Her speech was being broadcast across Earth and to the colonies, and she knew the Veltorians would be watching too. People of Earth and our colonies, she began, her voice heavy. The unprovoked attack on our people continues. Mars and Europa colonies are under siege. Thousands of innocent lives have been lost. She paused, allowing her shoulders to slump slightly. The Galactic Concord has refused to help us. We stand alone against an enemy with superior technology and numbers. I have attempted to open diplomatic channels with the Veltorian leadership, but they refuse all communication. In the Veltorian command ship orbiting Mars, Supreme Commander Drazkor watched the broadcast with his 4 eyes blinking in amusement. Look at them, he said to his officers. Already they speak of surrender. Primitive species are all the same, quick to submit when faced with real power. Should we accept their surrender when they offer it? Asked his second-in-command. We will consider it, Drazkor said, though he had no intention of stopping the attack. Prepare the main fleet to move toward Earth in 2 days. We will take their homeworld and end this quickly. What the Veltorians didn't know was that President Ellis's speech was part of a carefully crafted plan. As she spoke of Earth's limited options, her words contained hidden signals to military personnel around the world. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Frank Howard watched the president's address from the command center of the world's most secret military base. She's given the signal, he said to the officers around him. Operation Shadow Strike is active. 100 vessels, hidden for years from alien detection, powered up their engines. These ships had never been seen by any alien race. They had been built in secret facilities underwater, in hidden valleys, and on the dark side of the moon. All stealth ships report ready, Admiral, said his communications officer. Good, Howard said. First wave will deploy in 6 hours. Remember, maintain stealth until the attack order is given. The EDS Phantom, a stealth destroyer, slipped out of its underwater dock and rose to the ocean surface without making a ripple. As it broke the surface, its stealth systems were already active. To any observer, human or alien, there was nothing there. Lieutenant Gregory Wilson sat in the captain's chair of the Phantom, his first command. At 30 years old, he was young for such responsibility, but he had trained for this moment his entire career. Navigation. Set course for Europa, he ordered. Maximum speed once we clear Earth's atmosphere. Course set, Captain, replied the navigation officer. We'll reach Europa in 18 hours with the new engines. The new engines were another secret. While the aliens thought human ships needed days or weeks to travel between planets, these new drives could cross the solar system in hours. Weapons check, Gregory ordered. All systems nominal, reported the weapons officer. Phase cannons at full charge. Quantum torpedoes loaded. The Phantom rose higher, joined by 5 other stealth ships. Together they formed Shadow Squad 1, the first wave of Earth's hidden fleet. In her office at the United Nations, President Ellis received a secure message. Shadow Squad 1 deployed. ETA Europa. 18 hours. She allowed herself a small smile. The Veltorians thought humans were begging for mercy. They had no idea what was coming. On Europa, Susan Carter and the surviving colonists huddled in the underground bunkers. Life support was failing faster than expected. The air was getting thin. How much longer? Susan asked Paul Johnson. Maybe 3 days at most, he replied. The damage to the recyclers was worse than I thought. Susan closed her eyes. Then we hold on for 3 days. What she didn't know was that help was already on the way, invisible, silent, and deadly. Earth was finally revealing its true strength, and the Veltorians wouldn't be laughing much longer. 3 days after the attack on Europa began, Supreme Commander Drazkor stood on the bridge of his flagship. Around him, 20 Galtorian warships formed a blockade around Earth. They were preparing for the final assault. "Status report," Drazkor ordered. "All ships in position, Commander," his officer replied. "Earth has made no attempt to move their defensive ships. Their planetary shields are active, but our scans show they are weak. We can break through in minutes." Drazkor's 4 eyes blinked in satisfaction. "Begin the final approach. I want their surrender before the day ends." In Earth orbit, hidden by their perfect stealth technology, Admiral Frank Howard waited aboard his command ship, the EDS Spectre. Around him, 50 stealth ships had gathered in attack formation, completely surrounding the Veltorian fleet. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his communication officer said. Howard nodded. "Send the signal to Shadow Squad 1 at Europa and Mars. We attack together." Near Europa, Lieutenant Gregory Wilson received the message aboard the EDS Phantom. His squad of 6 stealth ships had been watching the 7 Veltorian vessels bombarding the moon colony for the past day. "This is it," he told his crew. "Remember your training. These aliens think they're fighting a primitive species. Let's show them how wrong they are." Gregory opened the ship-wide communication. "Shadow Squad 1, this is Captain Wilson. Decloak on my mark and target their weapons systems first. 3, 2, 1, mark." At the same moment across the solar system, over 100 human ships suddenly appeared as if from nowhere. On Europa, Mars, and Earth, the stealth fleet revealed itself in perfect attack formation. On the Veltorian flagship, alarms blared. "Commander," shouted a panicked officer, "human vessels are appearing all around us." "Impossible." Drazkor pushed the officer aside to see the sensor readings himself. "Where did they come from? How did we not detect them?" Before he could get answers, the first shots hit his ship. The bridge shook violently. "Shields at 60%, called another officer. "Their weapons, they're more powerful than our intelligence indicated." Around Europa, Captain Linda Scott led the attack from her stealth carrier, the EDA's Apparition. Her ship launched dozens of small stealth fighters that the Veltorians couldn't track on their sensors. "Target their engines and weapons," she ordered her pilots. "Disable rather than destroy when possible." The Veltorian ships spun in confusion, firing wildly into space, trying to hit enemies they could barely see. The human vessels seemed to flicker in and out of their sensor range, appearing for just seconds before vanishing again. On Earth, Admiral Howard gave his next command. Phase 2. Target their communication arrays. Within minutes, the Veltorian fleet was in chaos. Unable to coordinate their defense and suddenly facing technology they didn't understand, half their ships were already disabled. In the underground bunker on Europa, Susan Carter felt the vibrations of explosions above. But these were different from before. "Something's happening up there," she said to Paul Johnson. The emergency communication system crackled to life. A human voice came through. "Europa colony, this is Captain Wilson of the EDS Phantom. We've engaged the Veltorian forces. Hold tight. Rescue teams are standing by to evacuate survivors once we secure the area." Susan couldn't believe what she was hearing. How? Earth ships couldn't get here this fast. Paul looked equally shocked. And how are they fighting off the Veltorians? 3 hours after the battle began, it was effectively over. The Veltorian fleet across the solar system was in retreat or disabled. Their remaining functional ships were fleeing at maximum speed, sending distress calls to their homeworld. In Earth orbit, Admiral Howard addressed his fleet. "The first phase of Operation Shadow Strike is complete. The enemy is in retreat. Well done to all. He looked at the sensor readings showing the fleeing Veltorian ships. They came expecting an easy victory against a primitive species. They're leaving knowing the truth. Across the galactic concord, news spread quickly of the shocking human victory. Species that had laughed at humans just days before were suddenly very, very quiet. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Concord was called just one day after the Veltorian retreat. The Grand Hall was filled with tension as representatives from all 8 species gathered. Jack Bennett, Earth's representative, was the last to enter. Unlike previous meetings, he did not rush to his seat. Instead, he walked slowly, confidently to the center of the room. "Esteemed representatives," he began, his voice firm. "Yesterday, the Veltorian fleet attacked our colonies and threatened our homeworld. Today, they are in retreat." The Threx representative's antennae twitched nervously. "We have heard disturbing reports. Perhaps you could explain what happened." Jack smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "I'd be happy to." He pressed a button on his wrist device. Above the central table, a holographic display appeared showing the solar system. Tiny dots representing ships moved into position around Earth, Mars, and Europa. This was the Veltorian attack force, Jack explained. Then he pressed another button. Suddenly, many more dots appeared, surrounding the first ones. And this was our response. The aliens leaned forward, studying the display with growing concern. These ships, the Nebulon representative's container, vibrated rapidly. They were not detected by any sensors. "How is this possible?" "Stealth technology," Jack said simply. "Something you all believe humans were too primitive to develop." He pressed a third button. The hologram changed to show hundreds more ships appearing in Earth orbit. "This is our current defensive fleet. Until yesterday, not a single one of these vessels was visible to your scanning technology." The room erupted in shocked murmurs, and the alien equivalent of gasps. "You've been hiding your true capabilities," accused the Veltorian representative, a hastily appointed diplomat replacing the one who had flown with their fleet. "Yes," Jack agreed, "just as you hid your plans to attack us. We've known about your intentions since our first meeting." Science Officer Nicole Harris entered the room, carrying a small device. She had spent the last year analyzing Veltorian communications while pretending to be a junior diplomatic aide. "With your permission, Representative Bennett," she said, placing the device on the table. Jack nodded. Nicole activated the device, and a recording began to play. It was Zorathal, the original Veltorian diplomat, speaking 2 years ago before first contact. "These humans will be easy prey," Zorathal's voice echoed through the hall. "We will pretend friendship, learn their weaknesses, then take their resources. Their planet is rich, and they are too weak to defend it." Nicole stopped the recording. "We have many more like this. The Veltorians planned to attack Earth from the beginning. Their laughter and mockery was cover for their true intentions." The Threx representative turned to the Veltorian diplomat. "Is this true?" The Veltorian's skin turned a deeper blue, their version of embarrassment or shame. They did not answer. "And now," Jack continued, "let me introduce the real Earth delegation." The doors opened again. Admiral Howard entered, followed by Captain Linda Scott and Captain Gregory Wilson, all in formal Earth defense uniforms. Admiral Frank Howard, commander of Earth's stealth fleet, Jack introduced. Captain Scott and Captain Wilson led the defense of our colonies. The court's consciousness representative rose. Unlike the others, the crystalline being's expression was impossible to read. "We have made a serious error in judgment," it said, its voice resonating through the chamber. "Our analysis of human potential was flawed." "Yes, it was," Jack agreed. The Threx representative stood next. "The Threx Hive would like to propose a new trade agreement with Earth, perhaps in exchange of technology." The Nebulon's container glowed brighter. "The Nebulon Collective offers alliance. Your stealth technology would be valuable to us." One by one, the aliens who had laughed at humans now made offers of friendship, trade, and alliance. Only the Veltorian representative remained silent, head bowed in defeat. Jack looked at them all, remembering their mockery, their dismissal of humanity as primitive and weak. Earth will consider all offers, he said coolly. But first, we have some demands of our own. 1 year after the failed Veltorian invasion, Europa colony had been rebuilt. The new main dome was larger and stronger than before. Commander Ryan Mitchell stood at the viewing port, looking out at Jupiter's swirling storms in the distance. "Beautiful view," said Ambassador Diana Miller, joining him. "Hard to believe this place was nearly destroyed a year ago," Ryan replied. They were waiting for the arrival of an important delegation. Today, the Veltorian government would officially sign a peace treaty with Earth. After their defeat, the Veltorian leadership had undergone dramatic changes. Supreme Commander Drazkor and his supporters had been removed from power. The new government had spent months negotiating with Earth. "Ship approaching," announced the colony's AI system. Through the viewport, they watched as a Veltorian diplomatic vessel approached the colony. It was escorted by 4 human stealth ships that had decloaked for the occasion. "Quite a change from their last visit," Diana said quietly. In the main conference room, representatives from all Galactic Concord species were gathered. Earth was no longer the newcomer with the smallest seat. Now, President Catherine Ellis sat at the head of the table. The Veltorian representative entered and bowed deeply to the human delegation before taking a seat. "This meeting of the Galactic Concord is now in session," President Ellis announced. "Today we welcome the new Veltorian government as they sign the peace treaty." The treaty was displayed on the large screen. It included reparations for the damage done to the colonies, a non-aggression pact, and open trade agreements. The Veltorian representative stood. "On behalf of my people, I formally apologize for our previous government's actions. We seek forgiveness and a new beginning." President Ellis nodded. "Earth accepts your apology and welcomes this new chapter in our relationship." They both pressed their palms to the digital treaty, signing it officially. After the formal ceremony, Admiral Frank Howard unveiled a memorial wall listing the names of those who had died in the attack. The gathered representatives stood in silence as the names were read. Among the crowd, Susan Carter and Paul Johnson watched with mixed emotions. They had survived the attack on Europa and helped rebuild the colony. Susan was now the permanent director of Europa Colony. "I still have nightmares about those days in the bunker," Susan whispered to Paul. "Me too," he admitted. "But look at what we've built since then." Later that evening, a reception was held in the colony's garden dome. Representatives from all species mingled together. The atmosphere was different from any previous gathering. There was respect in the way the aliens now spoke to the humans. The court's consciousness elder, a being named Crystallis, approached Ambassador Miller. "We have been studying your history," Crystallis said, its crystalline body catching the light. "It seems humans have always been underestimated." Diana smiled. "It's something of a pattern, yes. Your stealth technology is remarkable," Crystallis continued. "But I have come to believe that your greatest strength isn't your technology." "Oh." Diana raised an eyebrow. "What is it then?" "Your adaptability. Your determination. The way you appear weak until the moment you reveal your true strength." Crystallis's crystal body hummed slightly. "We were wrong about your species, Ambassador. We laughed at what we thought was weakness." Outside the dome, in perfect formation against the backdrop of Jupiter, Earth's stealth fleet performed a ceremonial flyby. The ships decloaked in sequence, creating a rippling effect of appearing warships that stretched across the sky. The alien representatives watched in silent awe. "There was a saying on ancient Earth," Diana told Crystallis. "Those who laugh last, laugh best." Crystallis's crystals changed color slightly, its version of a nod. "A wise saying. We will not underestimate humans again." As Diana looked around the room at the aliens who once mocked her species, but now sought their favor and protection, she allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. No one was laughing at humans anymore.